This conference will now be recorded.
So, shall I give Don? Don, do you want to be presenter?
Well, if people want me to speak now, I didn't know if Brett was done or, but
No,
yeah,
you're the only one we have on the agenda today, Don. So the floor is yours. We'll go around the room after you're through. So you've got the floor.
Okay, so yeah, I do need to be presenter. That'd be very helpful. So just a second here.
Yeah, well done.
Are you seeing anything yet?
We are.
But no, that's not what I want. Well,
Coming up.
I'm not sharing. Hold on a second. Let me stop that and share something else. Uh, okay. So one of the key things I want to highlight is tomorrow we actually have the Open Compute Cooling Environments community call, and I would like to extend that invite, obviously, to the facilities team. And one of the topics that we're kind of seeing, that the whole landscape, and maybe you're seeing it, is it seems like that for the past 5 years, we've been looking at the evolution toward liquid cooling, and in the past 6 months, it's all of a sudden taken off. And this was what you're seeing on the screen right now was a report from last week that approximately 2.1 gigawatts of data center leases were signed in the last 90 days, pushed by this AI demand. If you convert that to liquid to the rack solutions, that's about 2,100 coolant distributions, about 32 miles of headers, 84,000 branch lines. It's also a change in philosophy on for many people on how they're designing and delivering their data centers. Right now, and we're trying to figure out in cooling environments how to handle this, because one of the key things you're looking at here is for the past year or so, we've been talking to the ACS teams, the Advanced Cooling Solutions teams, on Show Me Your Megawatt, which was basically a campaign around how to add a megawatt of liquid cooling into an operating data center so that people could see and kind of the appetizer version of liquid cooling. Well, we've leaped from the appetizer version to cloud scale. And with that, we have an obligation or opportunity or to help try to address what supply chain issues. And this transition needs insights from a broad scope of participants, much more than what we've had in the past. We're reaching out to people on the facility side. We're reaching out to people, when I say facility side, one aspect of what we're looking at, and this has had some controversy, is the concept of an open TCS. If you look at how to deploy, all these items here are going to have to become available at cloud scale. And 2,100 CDUs, that's, I think, the North America market in the last 90 days is what was being potentially out there. You go to the global market, and we need to come up with ways. And there's a sensitivity on the CDU side, but skipping over to the facility side, if you're deploying thousands of feet of pipe systems, you're going to want to use the same pipe system for your door heat exchanger as you might 4 years from now for your door heat exchanger plus cold plate. And so what can we do to get this to help develop an acceptance or an understanding of 6-inch pipe is 6-inch pipe, and how do we advance that without inhibiting development? And this is where I really am reaching out to the facilities team, because this pipe here, as you may see in the upper left-hand corner up there, if I blew that up, you'll see this pipe magic. Oops, sorry, blew it up the wrong way. Here we have a picture of the pipe magically floating above the IT racks. Reality is, pipe doesn't magically float. So we're out reaching out to structural engineers. We're reaching out to structured ceiling vendors and designers, people who have not participated in OCP in the past, to try to come up with what is a recipe and best practice for adding pipe or adding floating pipe to your operating data center. The concept of you're seeing here was based on some feedback from some of our group can we start looking at deploying headers at, making hundreds or thousands of headers for a global supply chain? And what you get there is when you start looking at a global supply chain and you start looking at doing thousands, you can actually look at maybe different types of materials in a different way. There are some materials that are more popular in Europe that aren't popular in the United States, such as thin wall stainless. But if you have a global need, you might find that thin wall stainless could become available in the United States. And so these discussions here, the concepts of circularity, the ability to add or subtract or grow, these are all here. And just where I'm going with the facilities team is we're going to need help from all of OCP on as we try to address this tsunami, if you will. So real quick, tomorrow we're going to have this the Open Compute community call, our Cooling Environments community call. I could run through this in greater detail today, but I'm kind of curious as to what is the interest factor, and I don't want to drive any particular topic in excess, but I will tell you that every data center show I go to, I was at one yesterday, and this is frontline topic of what the industry is talking about, and it's going to need coordination between of resources. And one of the key challenges I would say is, for ACF team in particular, there's a lot of projects that we've had in place that we need to continue to advance. We need participation. We need additional leadership. And so if you know people that want to join on, this is a time that I see that we could steer the industry in a great positive way. Let me pause there. Any comments or input at this point in time?
Yeah, I have a question. I guess this is for Don and Mark and maybe other folks. Is there a way to survey the colo industry to know what percentage of colos have water on the floor? Because I think in the last 5 years, there's been a lot of colos that are also going to airside economizer, which is to a first order incompatible with bringing liquid to IT racks. So is there a way to know out there? I don't know if there's any data published out there on information on water temperatures and flows of what's out there.
So I don't know that I have a specific survey on that. We could probably dig it around, but I will tell you I have a lot of interest in people's specific requests on adding liquid in a slab floor environment, which in most situations means you're going to run it overhead. And those are discussions that obviously deal with a combination of structural ability as well as risk management. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but the short answer is my general perception has been that the majority of data centers have been slab floor in the past at least 5 years. Any feedback from the others?
I'm not sure if my mic's working or not, but the one of the things that I've seen is that I don't have the exact data based on actual new capacity, what percentage is allowing water cooled to the floor versus air. I have seen some service providers moving to complete airside systems only, simply to help reduce the risk of water intrusion. And so there was actually an article released here not too recently from one of the providers with airside discussions on high density racks without water cooled to the floor. But largely it seems like the industry is, I don't think it's split 50-50, but I would say depending on the market within the world, you find more water cooled systems versus air cooled. Mainly seems like water-cooled systems are more prevalent outside the United States. At least that's been my experience anyhow. But it would be worthy, to get some data to see what percentage of the data halls use liquid cooling versus airside, percentage-wise for available capacity in the fleet.
So I would also tell you on a personal note, I'm employed by this company called Victaulic. And so we specifically target data centers that use chill water as much as possible. Obviously, there's pipe in the evaporative cooled process, but much less pipe. And to that extent, I do have some perspectives. And to your point, in North America, we historically or have had a large number of, especially cloud providers, doing primarily evaporative cooled, no pipe in the data center kind of designs. But you're right, over in Europe, there's a strong prevalence of chill water systems. And then I guess the recent announcements by Meta that have been in the paper kind of suggest that Meta is moving toward a more of a liquid to the rack solution set at a large scale, which is part of what's inspiring this. I don't know if John Fernandez wants to comment on that or not.
Yeah, I think if it's been shared publicly, then I think Don's already touched on it. If not, I'm gonna protect my ass and stay quiet.
Well, yeah. So, John, the thing I can say is I don't want to be over trumping you, but I only can speak about what's in the newspaper pretty much. We do have a team at Victaulic that is working with people at Meta. I'm not on that team specifically for a good reason, but I do read the paper. And as you look at the paper, it basically outlines a program where an organization that used to use evaporative cooling is now going to strongly toward a liquid to the rack solution. And I only highlight that as being one. I can tell you there's other colos or other cloud providers that are looking at a similar evolution. And so there's two opportunities that OCP has at this point. Number one, how to help those that are continuing to how to come up with a transition path for people that have already have a fair amount of footprint in the industry. How do they add liquid? And then there's as people are looking at new designs, they're going to have to decide: do they still want to go to slab floor, or still want to go to or go to a underfloor distribution? But is that answering the question? Or we, Madhu, where did you want to go with this?
I guess I'm interested in not so much the hyperscalers, but the large third-party hyperscalers and colos out there. What is the state of the industry in terms of, like, I think you bring up a great point, slab versus raised flow, and water on the floor versus no water on the floor, DX or airside economizer. And just feeding the thought that maybe OCP can play a role in, because we care about the industry and we care about the IT trends, maybe we should consider some way to leverage our OCP ready track and OCP to do some kind of a market survey. It might be a useful thing for us to publish, and maybe in keeping with our mission. That's the thought I had. And that can provide foundational data for some of the work you're doing, Don.
Madhu, I think it is a good idea. I mean, we have carried out surveys in the past. We did one for the modular, the MDC sub project before that, that started. So, I think historically we've done that in the past. Just one thing I did see in the news, Digital Realty announced of 28 data centers. They would be providing air-assisted liquid cooling, which, looking deeper into the article, it was door heat exchange is what they were providing in these data centers. So certainly there is a move towards it. But yeah, I mean, the survey, definitely look at putting something out there, at least to the community, to the DCF community.
So one of the things we're looking at with this open TCS is that the concept of air assisted liquid cooling, what people are putting in today, which would be primarily air-cooled IT with a door heat exchanger. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they may want to be putting in air-assisted liquid cooling plus a cold plate. And to transition from one to the other, you have to enable the capability of transitioning your delta T, delta P. Your CDU is always going to need to align with the performance of your ITE, but the pipe system, in essence, could still be the same if you actually are either able to adapt your CDU or replace your CDU. You could still use the same 6-inch pipe, just with a higher delta T, if you've properly considered the key thing that would potentially change would be the heat range of your liquid on your TCS, because air-assisted liquid cooling, you're not in contact with the chip, and your heat range on your pipe is rarely going to go above, say, 40 degrees centigrade. But in a liquid to the chip or immersion environment, in a casualty situation, the temperature range could go up to the shutoff temperature of the IT device, which means that your fluid might go as high as, say, 170 degrees. So putting in pipe that is rated for up to 170 degrees would be one thing that would extend the potential longevity and adaptability of that solution set. Long story short, as we look at these different, what we're trying to do is get discussions to look for areas where we can find commonality and hopefully develop circularity. When I say circularity, not just reuse, but potentially if you find out you're going to a higher density, for some reason, if you go to higher density, you're still with the same pipe, you may actually take off or retire a section of that and put it back into inventory. And then the global inventory process could be something that could happen. These are things that are in discussion. I don't know if that, again, Madhu, you're one thing I would also say in terms of surveys is, and this is a very informal survey process, but I go to a couple data center shows every month. And so I interview with a lot of data center owners every month. I'm not really good at surveys, but I am good at socializing and saying hi to a lot of people in data center shows. And the general feedback from yesterday's show at DICE was NVIDIA saying that, and a general feedback that AI is going to continue to drive liquid to the chip in requirements, even more than just air-assisted liquid cooling. And so we're going to see a continued growth in, say, door cold plate or immersion, in addition to door heat exchangers, because air-cooled IT is not going away either. Let me pause there. I'm not trying to spin a direction on this discussion. I just want to like to engage the resources of the facilities team and participation wherever people want to participate in these discussions going forward. And like I said, we do have this call tomorrow at 11 Eastern time, and I would encourage participation. Let's go through what the latest and best practices we're doing in immersion, cold plate, door heat exchangers, heat reuse, and advanced cooling facilities. And any other discussion for today? I don't want to dominate this call with it, make it a CE call or cooling environments call. I just want to bring you up to speed on some of the stuff that's going on in cooling environments.
We appreciate that, Don. Hey, just a quick question for clarification. When you say air-assisted cooling, are you talking about a rack heat exchanger pushing air, IT fans pushing air through a rack heat exchanger? Or are you talking about air-assisted being there's direct cooling to the chip and air handles the rest of the server?
So I guess maybe I jumped to a conclusion there. AALC also occurs, there's two ways. You have your door heat exchanger, and then the other aspect ends up being there was a advanced air liquid cooling solution that was proposed where you can take liquid cooled chips and you can, in essence, use a door heat exchanger as a radiator and dump the and I don't know, John Fernandez, are you better explaining the solution than I am?
He's not on the call, but I guess I'll jump in because I'm in Redo as well. This is Jabari here. So there's an option in Redo heat exchanger deployments where you can integrate a cold plate and an RPU with a Redo heat exchanger. So essentially, you'd be, instead of rejecting heat from the RPU or the HRU as a small unit at the base of the rack on the side, you'd use the Redo heat exchanger as a rejection unit. So from the cold plate, I'm talking about in terms of removing the heat. So there's a scenario where you can have both of those air-assisted liquid cooling technologies integrated, and that provides even greater heat capacity removal.
Did that answer the question?
Yes and no. I think it's really just nomenclature. It's semantics. So that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
One of the key things is we start looking at scale is what the big thing, and that's one thing I want to drive back to. Last year, we were looking at adding a megawatt here and a megawatt there. This year, this phenomenal growth driven by AI is causing us to have to reach, it gives an opportunity that we've never had before, but it's definitely stressing the industry, and a huge number of colo providers are approaching me at these shows, sharing their stress factor as a huge number of cloud providers are pushing the opportunity / burden of liquid cooled ITE onto their shoulders as people are trying to resolve what the best design is going forward. So this is definitely, it's a cloud driven requirement, but it's being pushed to the edge and the colos to carry the football, if you will, until people actually have refined what their next generation cloud solution is going to be. At least that's what I think I'm hearing. Does anyone have any question or conflict with that discussion there? Okay. Any more discussion wanted today, or do people want to reach out?
This is Eric. I have one topic. Hello?
Say again?
This is Eric. I have one topic.
Well, I'm going to back off because I'm not the topic control guy. I'm going to just stop my sharing.
Hey, Don, thanks for the topic today. It obviously generated a lot of great discussion, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Eric, feel free. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I see Rob is online. So, like Meta, Google, and Microsoft, we prepared a DC automation charter. So I think I have sent a few emails earlier. So trying to follow up on the process. I think we're still waiting for an email address that we can send to OCP committee for review. So Rob, I don't know, like earlier email, Madhu mentioned Michael, but he seems continue to be on travel, so was not seeing the response. So do you know the path forward?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to drop my email address here. If you would send me a follow-up, I'll look for it today.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, if you can forward me that thread, if I'm not on it, then I'm happy to get back to you. We'll get those next steps. So if this is the automation charter for the work stream within DCF, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Then yeah, we'll need to get you set up with a call for the work stream, and I'll check with Michael, see if there's any other requirements. But I think we should be able to start moving forward.
Okay, super. So you'll see my email soon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Eric,
Yes,
do
sir.
you mind telling me what is the scope of the work stream on the automation part?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I think last month, so we have been invited to give one presentation. So this work stream will be, we see a lot of data center physical operation will have opportunity, right, to bring in robotics and automation technology to help streamline, improve the efficiency, reduce the safety, blah, blah, blah. So in that way, so the three companies are working together. So writing up this charter, so there are a few chapters in it. For example, material movement, right? So Meta has a solution to move the racks automatically by AGV robot technology. So we also have like material. We also have like a media management. So Google has solution, right? So working with vendor to standardize the packaging, blah blah blah. So Meta and Microsoft are using either punching or shredding, so to destroy the media safely. So we also have other streams like remote inspection, even have a long-term need. So from the market about the manipulation. So robot help human to repair, so automatically or to bring up the efficiency and the safety. So that's all about the DC automation charter, which we want to like be part of the OCP and also expose to the industry.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And a quick plug for automation here as well. The work stream, and it sounds, and I apologize, Eric, that it seems like there's been a delay in getting that set up. But automation will be on display at the OCP Global Summit, at least in some form factor. The Experience Center for Rack and Power will have the automation tug on display. I've been working with Georgios Papadopoulos on that, so it is coming forward. So look forward at Global Summit, and we'll get the work stream set up too for those who are interested.
Yeah, exactly. We are very excited. Thank you, Rob. So you have a lot of support on the back end.
Fantastic. Let's get aligned so we can work together. It sounds like we're both excited and ready to move forward, but we just have our wires crossed a bit, so we'll get that corrected.
Do you have
Don,
any additional topics?
I have a question for Don, and I want to expand a little bit on his view of, and of course to ask you guys what do you think, because I've heard a lot of issues for both the data center industry and the supply chain industry that we're struggling a lot from a broad perspective, not just advanced cooling, but in general, the entire supply chain is under a lot of stress to cope with the demand. Don, have you heard anything, like, is that the trend? Is that here to stay? Is AI pushing that to the limit? Because we were already stressed with the supply chain like a couple of years ago, right? And it was actually improving, but now it seems that the things are out of control. I've heard recently that there's a massive shortage of like cables in the marketplace, and of course pipes and so forth. You guys see that as well? Did you hear anything, Don, in your trade shows?
I'm hearing that on a regular basis. And actually, one of the jokes I have just yesterday, I was sharing with people, is it used to be that people were competitive on pricing on generators and switchgear and things like that. Today, they're all market price. Depending on when you place your order, the cost and delivery might vary. And,
wow.
Literally, an example is given that an air-cooled chiller might have a 72-week lead time. Okay.
Wow.
It's a year and a half, okay? Or my math may be a little off, but it's well over a year, okay? So these are issues, and in all fairness, these are opportunities for OCP to really stand up. The industry, the way to deal with supply chain challenges is to develop one of the examples I give, people look at what size pipe should you use. Well, what size in your house? You have a 15 amp breaker. You might plug stuff into that. You might have you don't have a 1 amp, a 5 amp, a 6 amp breaker. You have a 15 amp breaker, and everything plugs into that. And that's kind of what OCP does. And that's what we're trying to do on the cooling side, is find sweet spots that are not excessively adding cost, but add commonalities, so that on a global basis, you think of your laptop used to have, every laptop used to have its own power supply. Okay, you couldn't, and now they move forward. So, yeah, we have a huge supply chain challenge. It's probably going to keep getting worse. The only thing that I can see that can make it better is if you open up, make the sources more open, so that everywhere in the world you may not have the same vendor in North America as you have in, say, Southeast Asia, but you could have close enough to the same product, or functionality-wise the same product, and that's, I don't know any other choice. But yeah, there is a supply chain. Every every show talks about two topics: supply chain breakdown and the transition to liquid cooled chips.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
Any other topics today? If not, we'll give back 20 minutes of time. Thanks, everybody, and apologies again for the confusion at the beginning of the call. We'll get that corrected for next month.
All right.
Have a great
Thanks,
day,
guys.
everyone.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks.